Hello, my name is Bubs, I'm an artist, and I like to hear myself talk, and today I'd like to hear myself talk about your old original characters. For those of you who aren't aware, a few months ago I proposed this idea to you all where you'd basically send your very old original characters to me, I'd give them a little redesign, and then make a video about it. Not to toot my own horn, but it was a really fun idea. Unfortunately, at every step of the way, the execution was absolutely terrible. I somehow didn't know there was an upper limit to file uploads on Google Forms, even though that seems very obvious in hindsight. Though, in all honesty, I would have never expected to hit the limit in, the first day of it being open anyways, because I still cannot properly comprehend the number of people that watch my videos with my simple human mind. Then, every time I started to work on this, something else got in the way, including, but not limited to, other projects, personal life issues, burnout, physical agony. The universe truly did not want me to finish this project. Alas, the universe forgot to account for the healing properties of finding creative new ways to kill Link in Tears of the Kingdom. So, at long last, I am here with 20 new designs for your guys' old characters. I'm going to tell you a little bit about each of the original characters, and then walk you through all the changes and thoughts that I had over a time-lapse of my redesign drawings. I'm gonna go kind of fast so as to not make this video take 7 more years to complete, but hopefully this still feels like the celebration of your finally aged art that I intend this to be. There is a part of me that wished I did more than just 20, but on the other hand, I knew that decision would further delay this video, and if I let myself raise the number once, I'd let myself raise it again, and then I would have done 100, and this video would be at least 10 hours long, and I don't even want to hear myself talk for that long. Also, my laptop is a potato, and I think trying to render and export that, let alone edit all that in the first place, would actually cause it to commit die. So, 20. 20 is still enough to make this video a quite lengthy one, though, so I recommend grabbing a refreshing beverage, maybe a snack, and settling in now. Be sure to grab a sketchbook if you want to draw with me, or whatever other thing you want to work on while I fill the void for you. While you're getting your stuff ready and settling in, I do want to say 2 little things. Firstly, let's not be mean to anybody over any art that you see in this video. Even though I will be critiquing things to explain the reasoning behind my decisions, when it comes to me reimagining things, I don't think that any of the original art pieces or characters that I'll be presenting are bad, even if the people that made them can do far better now. And even if this was not the case, some of this stuff was made by 3rd graders, and it would be pretty fucking cringe to bully someone over art they made when they were a 3rd grader, no? And let's also not judge their abilities right now based off of this old art. I am going to be linking everybody that asked to be credited and linked in my description, and I would really appreciate if you go and check out their stuff now, because when I did, I saw some genuinely really cool stuff. Hopefully I needn't say that. You guys tend to be pretty chill and positive and supportive, but in case I do, now I have. Also, if you see your character in this video, I want you to be aware that my changes do not need to be changes that you take on if you decide to pick these characters back up. This is my interpretation based off of my own personal preferences and fairly vague descriptions attached to old art. You do not have to love what I did, even if I hope you do. That being said, if you own these characters, just know you still do. If you like what I do and want to use the design in the future, I really do not mind, and I also do not expect credit. The only exception being if you are going to be reposting my art as a reference image or something, even if it's just in the corner of your own art. Hopefully that makes sense, though feel free to reach out in comments or on my social medias if you have any more questions about that. Okie dokie, after months of waiting, I am just going to cut the yapping, cut the fluff, and get right into revealing the first of your guys' old-ass characters. I went back and forth a lot about which character I wanted to be up first because I had a lot of fun with all of them, but I feel like the best way to start is with the creation of a gotcha kid. I myself was not a gotcha kid. I think I was too old, but I both deeply respect and fear those of you that are in that camp. So please meet Agate. This lovely lady comes to us courtesy of Puddle Person, who put this lady together about 5 years ago with art that was, according to him, made in Gacha and then kind of just transferred over exactly. The story behind Agate, in as quick a summary as my verbose self can manage, is that she is the royal sorceress of the Dark Magic Kingdom. Or rather, she was before her queen and secret lesbian lover, yes girl boss, was slain and the murder was pinned on her. No, girl boss. Nowadays, she kind of just wanders around in exile, being edgy and gay and brooding over the existence of the new king. The real culprit behind the queen's demise, ooh, a deliciously edgy, dramatic story that I would have definitely written myself back in 2020. Anyways, so when I looked at this character, there were a lot of things that I liked already. The colors, the kind of roughed up and worn appearance, even the expression lent itself well to what I think of when I hear her story. I also do love the concept of a character that fell from grace and maybe has to rough it in the shadier streets to avoid detection of past enemies. It honestly sounds a lot like my first ever D&D character. However, there were also some things I wanted to tackle right away because there were a couple design things that I was a little confused about or thought could be better, and that started with tweaking the concept slightly. This particular design kind of looks and feels like a this bad stuff all just happened to me sort of thing, and while there is nothing wrong with that, and I'm no stranger to kicking a story off that way myself, I kind of like the idea of this character being more of a mystery in terms of backstory once we first check in on her. I wanted to try and explore the idea of her becoming a bounty hunter who is secretly trying to train herself to take on more and more powerful and dastardly foes until she is ready to bust back into the castle and take down the evil, corrupt king once and for all, taking her revenge for the pain she endured as well as the loss of her beloved queen. I think it would give the character a nice driving motivation throughout her narrative. Onto the actual visuals, first things first, I wanted to give her a more angry badass vibe overall. I started with giving her hair a little more texture to it, but also used it to cover up the half of her face where she lost her eye. Part of her lore was that the evil king gave her the Majima treatment, and I am a sucker for characters that hide face injuries or scars under hair. I don't know why I love it, but I do. I felt like her clothes should be optimized for fighting and traveling due to the new prompt I made up, so a big tattered coat or cape wasn't really part of my vision, even if it looked cool. Not that I didn't add other things for form over function. Look at those fingerless gloves and the little gold tip boots that I genuinely stole from my D&D character, and didn't make that connection until I brought it up in the comparison earlier in my script. I also wanted her to overall look a bit less ragged and a little more do not mess with me. I still gave her some bandages over her pants so she still looks a bit more rough, but I definitely think she looks a little more intimidating here. As far as colors, I liked the original color palette, I just made it overall a little less saturated since I felt like it suited the character more, though I know that's a personal bias of mine in many ways. I also wasn't entirely sure if that strip of pink was supposed to be a highlight or not, so I just ignored it. I don't know if that's rude, but I also felt like it would kind of draw attention away from the face and make the area less readable anyways, so I also wanted to add in some more yellowy tones to act as a nice point of contrast to the purpley ones. Trying to add in accent colors is something you're going to see a ton in this video, by the way, so get ready for me to do that like a million times. Yeah, that's the finished look though. I think she turned out pretty darn cool, and to Puddle Person, I hope that you like what I came up with for your special little lady. On to the next one. Next up, we've got a post-apocalypse girl named Tori. Tori was created by Daminal Barn is My Wife, an indeterminate amount of time ago, and she's a 16-year-old girl who roams around in a zombie-infested wasteland with absolute shit air quality. And that is more or less all I got to learn about her. There were also some details about her favorite color being blue and her liking dogs, but yeah, I didn't have much to work with here. However, the secret joy of that is that I have very few limits and could kind of do whatever I wanted. That being said, for this particular design, I actually kind of loved this base idea. I'm always a fan of the crop top, low-rise pants combo, but I also had a pretty clear concept for her story right away based on these visuals. When I looked at this pencil sketch, my brain immediately screamed, Wasteland Raider Princess. Maybe partially because I've been on a Fallout kick again recently, so that's the direction I ended up wandering. I thought of this idea where Tori is the daughter of a big scary gang leader that pretty much runs the post-apocalypse, so she is basically considered untouchable, hence why she's barely armored or even really covered up. But that doesn't mean she's afraid to get her hands dirty herself. maybe sorta Jinx vibes. In terms of what I changed, I first wanted to give her a weapon. It was originally going to be a baseball bat, but I switched it to a pipe later. For her outfit, I wanted it to be pretty similar to the original, just a little more junky feeling with some mismatched boots and tattered and worn fabric. I also wanted a bit of a personality to come through a little more with the visuals. When your character's face is covered up like that, I personally think it's a lot harder to make a character's personality come through since facial expressions are a big contributor to how I show that off. I particularly liked the idea of her being kind of cutesy and girly, which would be a fun contrast to her gang affiliations and her tendency to, beat people up with a pipe. I put a little heart sticker on her cheek and another little heart on a patch on her pants. I thought it was really cute. For colors, I knew I wanted very grungy ones, since I feel like that works great for a post-apocalypse girly, but I also wanted a brighter pop of color that was less grungy to work as a nice accent and also further push that personality thingy I was talking about. I opted for pink since I thought it fed really well into the cutesy aesthetic I wanted to work, and I liked the warmth that it brought to the design. Now, you may be thinking, if you remember the original character description, that I should have gone with blue, considering her favorite color being blue was one of the only details I was working off of. You would honestly be right, but my excuse is that I forgot. Don't worry, I did make a blue version just in case. I also like it, though it came out more Miku than I would have wanted. I think it's mostly just the pigtails. I personally prefer the pink. A sentence I believe would have made me reverse snack had I said it 5 years ago, but it's not really my character and it is no longer up to me to decide which is better. Speaking of Daminal, I hope you like it. On to the next goober! This next one makes me so happy for a variety of reasons, but it's mostly because this is genuinely, exactly the type of character I would have made in middle school. And did make in middle school a lot. It's very nostalgic and sweet for that reason. Anyways, this is Veng. Veng here belongs to Lothri, and his story is apparently basically just the plot of one of those Undertale Sans AUs where Sans loses his shit after you kill Papyrus, hence the blatant Undertale-themed hand tattoos. Apparently, that's where he gets his name, as Veng is short for vengeance. I must be true to myself and ask why on earth you didn't spell it with an E at the end, because phonetically that makes more sense and it honestly looks better to me, but putting away the grammar nerd stuff, being charitable to the possibility you made this as a child and or that you are ESL, being realistic and acknowledging the fact that English spelling is stupid regardless, his name is hilarious and I love it so much. Veng is also a fighter type. He has no magic abilities, he's just really strong apparently and will punch you a lot, and it'll hurt so much. This is the first but not the last time I was handed a character that was more or less a fan OC, so I want to explain my approach to these really fast. For me, when I've historically revived my own fan OCs and given them fresh coats of paint, I do so in a way that moves them away from being a fan OC and into their own thing, and that's kind of what I wanted to try and do here. I tried to still have there be a tether, but a goal is definitely to kind of reduce the amount of blatant, unoriginal imagery and stuff. Nothing against fan OCs, obviously. Those are fantastic and wonderful and great. But for the purposes of this video, that is something I'm considering an improvement, so yeah. Firstly, I wanted to get a feel for the vibes of this character. I honestly wanted to maintain as much as I could of the original vibes, especially considering pale, edgy, vague, punk 20-something is a niche of character that I love to indulge in. I decided to maintain his kind of sassy, arrogant feeling from his original character description, though for some reason I hit this fighter type with the twink ray, and I'm not exactly sure why, other than pale, edgy, vague, punk, lanky 20-something is the true niche I tend to gravitate towards. But let's all pretend he's got some more toned muscles under his big baggy sweatshirt that he refuses to wear correctly. I tried to lean into the modern street rat punk kind of vibe that I got from the original design, also keeping more or less consistent with the colors. The only major changes are probably the little pop of blue I added with the sweatshirt as an accent, and the fact that I made the skin more pink toned because I thought it matched all the red better. I also did choose to have some more subtle Undertale references differences on the design. For one of the new edgy tattoos, I have a little red heart over some crossbones, and also put a flower there with an eyeball at the center, which are loosely linked to Undertale. And of course, I put a little fallen down text with backwards L's for some reason. I thought it looked kind of cool, I don't know. Maybe it's a band in this guy's universe. I will be honest, I didn't really think of any new story concepts for this guy besides maybe he's in said band, and rather than wanting revenge on some guy who killed his brother, he just wants to be in the band, but his arrogance causes interpersonal issues that hurt the band and stuff. I don't know. Whatever. Regardless, I love this guy, and to Lawfree, I hope you do too. Time for the next character. This little cutie is Skylar, coming to us courtesy of Skylar49. The only info given really about Skylar is that she is 15 and that she's allergic to animals. Despite not having much to go off of, I adored the sky theming with the cloud shirt and the night leggings. Even the white hair kind of made me think of clouds. So pretty much all I did was try to take that concept a bit further. I ended up giving this little lady big poofy white hair to look more like a cloud and give her little raindrop shaped earrings to further push this. I also turned the leggings into overalls instead. I thought this would make it easier design wise, as the big front pocket on the overalls could house the moon. Just a little easier to have it be consistently placed. Little life hack for you. I also decided not to give the shirt a cloud print anymore since I was already doing clouds with the hair. I ended up keeping all the colors the same too, except I made the eyes blue instead of green. Honestly, this is one of the easier tweaks I did where I kind of immediately had a vision. It's likely due to it being the first redesign I actually worked on, so my brain was still fresh. You can tell it was early on because I still had myself convinced I was going to do a full character sheet with more facial expressions off to the side for all of them, and yeah, I gave up on that so fast. The very loose story concept I thought up was that she was a child actor on some kind of show where all the characters are nature themed, and even though she experiences pretty much the best case scenario in terms of being a child actor, Skylar here is still sad she can't be a normal kid sometimes, and that would make for some interesting angst to explore in the story. Yeah, so that's Skylar. Like I said, pretty simple and easy. I really hope you like what I did, Skylar. 49, not the character. And it's off to the next one. This next character was another pretty quick and easy one because I really liked the original design concept. So this is Nim, created by Vamplin Vamp, and they are a very neat character. They're part of a magical kingdom of buggy people, where there's apparently a complex hierarchy where flying bugs are at the top and non-flying bugs are at the bottom. And Nim here was unfortunately cast from what I will refer to as Moth Kingdom down to what I will refer to as Spiderville, due to some tragic backstory stuff where she lost her wings. Luckily, she was able to secure a position as the royal sorcerer of Spiderville and serves her new bestie and maybe more, the Spiderville prince. I actually already really vibe with the design and the story, so I only changed a couple of things. I felt like I wasn't getting spider from this design much at all, and I feel like that's a missed opportunity for an honorary spider because spiders are cool as hell. Unless you have arachnophobia, in which case you may feel that spiders are from hell, and you are valid even if I do not feel the same. Out of respect for you though, I will not be showing any reference images of spiders. I'm not looking to make this a dangerous place for my arachnophobic peoples. Anywho, I really just wanted to tweak the hairstyle in the outfit, I'll be real. I decided to pull the hair up into a big, majestic ponytail since I felt like the hair being pulled back like that worked better for a sort of scholarly royal sorcerer type. I won't flash a picture of Cedric this time because I'm drawing, but just know that I really wanted to. The other benefit of the ponytail is that it made it easy for me to give the Sephiroth bangs, which I think you could interpret as kind of being like spider mandibles. My most favorite thing that I did here is giving Nim here a vest with a little peplum. The peplum allowed me to sneak a little spiderweb detail into the outfit in a subtle and tasteful way, but in my mind it is also a thing that I feel like would make sense for a trans femme character like Nim is. Like, it kind of gives the appearance of wider hips, which is traditionally viewed as more feminine, and frankly, I feel like I don't see peplums on more masculine garb really ever anyways, so I think it's just a way to kind of make her feel more feminine, and I like that. I think that that's cute. I don't know. Anyways, this is my tweaked version of Nim. I really hope you like her, Vamplin, cause I had fun drawing her. Onward we go. just go ahead and do the other moth character while we're at it. This cutie is Valentina, made by FawnOverBrawn, and she's a 20-year-old half-moth, half-human girly. She's very shy and non-confrontational, but she is also apparently capable of producing a sleep-inducing powder from her wings like a Pokemon, which is sick, and also definitely helps out with that whole non-confrontational thing. If somebody assaults you and you can just put them to sleep, I think that would really help avoid a lot of conflict. Now, I like this design quite a bit as is, as I'm a sucker for moth characters with big floofy neck ruffs like this, but I did want to tackle a few things. Firstly, this outfit wasn't really saying timid little teddy bear to me like the description did. I am by no means saying that shy ladies cannot or never do wear a bikini and chunky heel combo, but it just feels like kind of an odd choice to me for really any character as their normal out and about outfit. The personality is just kind of an extra bit of strange, I guess. I also was not the biggest fan of how the wings and the skin tone are kind of the same color because it makes things a little hard to make out. So that's really all I wanted to tackle, and I didn't end up changing much beside that. I started out with kind of a shy pose, then worked out from there. I ended up giving her a cute little dress rather than the bikini. I went with a boob window because I honestly thought it made the floofy neck collar look better, I won't lie. But again, shy character doesn't automatically mean the most modest possible outfit, and I kind of wanted to maintain that aspect, so boob window. I decided to go with goofy little buggy feet rather than human feet because if you couldn't already tell from the speed draw so far, I struggle with feet so much. So any excuse to not draw them is one I will take. I also gave her kind of buggy hands. I just personally prefer to do a little extra in terms of non-human parts with designs like this. For the colors, I kept them mostly the same, but I ended up using more of a muted green color for the wings and antenna, and I think that it allowed the skin tone to actually be the accent and point of contrast here, which I think keeps the design a little more focused. More importantly, I personally like that the green is kind of a sleepy color, if that makes any sense at all, so I feel like this alludes somewhat to the whole sleep powder thing a little bit better than the original did. Yeah, so that's Valentina redesigned. I didn't really come up with a story or anything, so yeah, but I still hope you like what I did anyways, Fawn. Next! This next submission comes from a person who would like to remain anonymous, which is totally chill. Anyways, here is their character, Mika. They didn't give me a whole lot of background about Mika, as I didn't remember much besides her being a mermaid that could turn into a human, so I literally just took this as an excuse to draw a mermaid because mermaids are cool. As you will see as I get started, I kept a lot of the details the same, again, like the big fin ears and the vitiligo because I thought those looked cool. One of my favorite things about this design, though, was, oddly enough, just that she was chubby. Chubby mermaids are a very underappreciated kind of mermaid, despite that being more realistic from a biological standpoint. If we're going to think of them as partially mammalian, having a larger amount of insulating fat is just straight up better for thermoregulation in the water compared to your twiggy aerial types, because water, even in warmer seas, saps heat from the body way faster than the open air. It's why pretty much every mostly or fully aquatic mammal is so wonderfully hefty. Oh, also I decided to give Mika a dreads, or dreads adjacent, hairstyle, rather than the fro she originally had. I did a little bit of research to make sure I wouldn't be talking out of my ass here, but afro-textured hair tends not to play well with salty ocean water from what I've read, so I felt like a mermaid should have a more protective hairstyle. Also, the dreads kinda look more like a fin, sorta, so for a fishy lady, I thought that was cool. Finally, I added lots of little bits and bobs that I imagine she salvaged from polluted water, including a little fish hook earring and some plastic bags to emulate the transparent sleeves on the original design. Turning garbage into fashion like this helps me feel slightly less depressed about how humanity works so hard to absolutely destroy our oceans. When I got to colors, I ended up leaning away from the reds and more into the orange. The orange present on the original design, plus the vitiligo, kind of reminded me of a koi fish, so I ended up leaning into that a little bit with the colors of the fishtail for some reason. I don't know, koi fish are sick, so vaguely making a koi fish mermaid is also sick. Maybe. And of course I added in a dark blue tone to the design to act as a contrasting accent because I thought it looked nice. Again, I will be so real, I pretty much just took this as an opportunity to draw a mermaid. I'm willing to accept the idea that this might not be any more of an inspired design than the original, but either way, I had fun, and to the anonymous owner of this fishy lady, I hope you also had fun, and you like what I did here. Allons-y! We are back to picking from Gacha Kids, and I am so happy with this one. This little dude is Phantom, who comes to us from the mind of a 9-year-old version of Foloni. Can we just take a second to appreciate the authenticity of this old OC art? Like, the gacha usage, the made with Kindmaster watermark in the screenshot. This is literally as good as gold to me. I love it so much. Anyways, so Phantom here was this guy who lives in an alternate dimension with some kind of evil cyborg tyrant running things. This cyborg guy corrupts people with chaos energy that he extracts from an unidentified source to give them superpowers, but also to turn them evil, which I infer is for the purpose of creating some kind of evil superpowered army. This is reminding me a lot of Shinra, I'm not gonna lie. Anywho, this Phantom goober here was attempted to be corrupted, but all that really happened is that he turned green, which was considered a failure. It also apparently created some kind of alter ego that was evil and trapped in his soul or something, but don't worry about that, it's probably fine. He did end up training under a master sword fighter though, so he was still theoretically able to participate in villainous henchman stuff. Apparently his arc was also kind of an anti-hero thing where he slowly set his morals straight over the story and became the hero in the end, and yay! There is already a lot of stuff here that I really like and find really fun. We love alternate dimensions with a dystopian society. However, there were a couple of things I thought I could expand on here, especially in terms of personality. According to Foloni, Phantom didn't really have a personality, so I just opted for a kind of cocky, goofy sort of energy. I imagined him as being pretty relaxed, even in situations where he should be a little more locked in, because he's pretty overconfident in himself, which comes from a mix of genuinely being able to pull off some crazy stuff in terms of swordplay, but also a good hint of head empty. I love cocky dumbass characters, they're always really fun to write about, it's just so good. As I hope is somewhat evident with the new outfit, with a cyborg overlord, my brain immediately went cyberpunk for the general idea of the setting, so I kind of moved into that direction when I was designing his new stuff. I wanted to reinterpret that hood as a hoodie bomber jacket thing, and then sort of went out from there. I usually like the things I come up with in terms of outfits, but I am always reluctant to claim them as specific niche fashion cultures because people get unreasonably hostile about that stuff when you get it wrong. I completely understand taking your fashion seriously and not wanting people to misrepresent you or the things you're really passionate about, but sometimes I feel like it would be more productive to try and calmly explain the differences than jump to yell at people for getting it wrong like one time. Don't be mean to me. End of side tangent as we get onto the colors. I wanted to keep with red and green mainly for the color scheme, something that I feel like can move into Christmas vibes incredibly quickly, and that's definitely the feeling I was getting while I was trying to maintain a green skin tone. From that sentence, I'm sure you can infer that I gave up on the green skin. I know that green skin was like part of the original lore, whatever, but I could not, for the life of me, take it seriously with the green skin and the green hair. He looked like the Green Giant in a dating sim or something, and I just couldn't stop thinking that, so I settled for the chaos smooths, turning his eyes green. I also made his pants and boots more green toned at some point to better match the color scheme, and then I called it done. Maybe it will be controversial that I made the skin a natural tone for a human rather than a natural tone for a goblin, but either way, I do hope that Foloni likes what I did. In the end, that's what I'm striving for, so here's to you, champ! We continue forth. This next entry, let me tell you, is so special to me and is genuinely one of my favorites of the originals. I don't want to pick favorites, but like, look at this priceless artifact. This lovely artwork from Rainstorm depicts their very first OC, Nory. Before I tell you about Nory, we definitely need to just appreciate this art for a second. The art itself is such a classic, like childhood art in the best way. The heterochromia, the two-tone hair to indicate that she's like super cool, like the kind of crinkled up paper because it's been like stuffed into boxes and like, you know, just kept for so long. But I think that my absolute favorite of this entire thing is the cutoff bio to the side, because what I can only believe is there is a misspelling of the word species. It's just so good, and this made me feel so warm looking at it. This specific brand of childhood art is just so relatable to me, and God, it just makes me so happy. Let's get into Nory's character description though. Nory is, quote, actually literally a Mary Sue, slay, and she's, quote, a wolf-human hybrid with fire powers, super speed, and teleportation. She was a wolf with two tails that was struck by a meteor that turned her into a half-human, I think, and also gave her the superpowers that she possesses. Her whole thing is that her tail would light up with green flames and then she'd go and save the city or whatever superhero things she was needed for. Specifically, she was the Deadpool variety of superhero that is very sarcastic and non-serious and can also break the fourth wall. Very quintessential childhood character stuff. We love. As far as how I was going to interpret this, I thought of the idea that this character being a werewolf rather than a magic meteor transformed wolf thing was cool. I will be 100% honest about my biases here. I'm not the biggest fan of narratives where an animal character is turned human. I feel like it is just kind of cruel. I mean, you took an animal that until yesterday only had to worry about eating bugs and digging holes, and you just gave it the sudden awareness of existential concepts like mortality and the vastness of space. Sure, they don't have to poop outside anymore, but now they have to pay taxes. Like, what the hell, man? Closing off the side tangent, I thought it would be fun to interpret this character as a very reluctant superhero. She was just a girl in the village doing alright, then she got hit by a fucking meteor and became a werewolf, with also green flames because it's sick and no other reason. I just wanted to keep that. I thought it would be fun. She's really just trying to get through college to get a hospitality degree, but anytime there's a crisis, the wolf inside her becomes active and she can't stop herself from transforming, kind of like an adrenaline reflex. Once transformed, she might as well help people, though she's not really gunning to be a full-time superhero. It's just not a good long-term plan. For her outfit, I felt like she'd definitely wear more loose-fitting clothes, like that's kind of like athletic clothing. Not necessarily because she prefers that style, but just because she doesn't mind it getting ripped up as a part of her transformation. It's cheaper to replace. She usually just kind of looks like a tired mess because of this, but honestly, I find that really endearing. I ended up liking this character a whole lot more than I thought I would, and I would honestly make a little mini comic about her if she actually belonged to me. Alas, she does not, so I will just have to leave it up to Rain. So yeah, hope you like what I did, Rain, and to that guy that kept asking me to draw muscular women. I don't know if Flaming Werewolf Lady counts, but if it does, you're welcome. On to number 10, halfway through. Next submission comes from Pippin Draws, and they created this lovely little deer lady named Millie when they were 11. Millie was a deer whose family was killed by hunters, and shortly after that she ate some food on the ground which turned her human. I am not sure if this food had any mystical properties because Pippin did not indicate such a thing, but either way, Millie found a city to try and live as a human. This story is something I did want to change a bit while tackling the design, but I will get there in a sec. I just think she's super cute. I love a deer girl character, and I also really like that in this image we can see a few versions of her design over time. That's really fun. There was, however, one thing that I really did not love off the bat, and that is the antlers. It is related to a bit of a design pet peeve of mine that I alluded to briefly back when we were talking about Valentina. And the fact of the matter is that I am not the biggest fan of characters that are animal people, but the extent of them being animal people is just that they have a couple of animal parts glued onto them. Specifically parts that you could glue onto them without having to actually remove anything from the base model of human. That's what I'm talking about. I'm by no means trying to pick on Pippin or Millie or really anybody that might be doing this, and like I know that this is a really popular design trope. It is not bad if you do it. I just personally am not the biggest fan, as I feel like you could go way further when making a hybrid character, or find far more creative ways to make an animal-like human if you didn't want to commit that hard. Millie, unfortunately, also kind of reminded me of all those cartoon characters that animators and character designers accidentally imply are trans because they didn't seem to consider that sexual dimorphism exists. Unless you are a caribou, you really would not have antlers as a lady deer if you are typical from a hormone production standpoint. Even in the case that Millie is trans femme, I feel like it would be pretty dysphoric for a deer girl to walk around with a very blatant and visible male exclusive trait. As long as there isn't any velvet on the antlers, they can be removed safely and painlessly, so I feel like you'd get rid of them. Really, I feel like Millie would, regardless of gender identity, because that would be incredibly inconvenient to have on your head when you're trying to fit into a normal human society. Remember, she's already gotta deal with taxes and the realization that she's going to die one day now. Just make it easier on the poor girl. That big diatribe was all to say that I just wanted Millie to be a girl who kind of has deer vibes and not a deer girl. Again, there's nothing inherently wrong with doing this, but you did give me the design to do with as I pleased, so it pleased me to not do that. To do this, I gave her big ponytails to emulate deer ears, big round doughy eyes, a leg warmer black shoe combo that kind of looks like hooves, and also giving her a flared pair of shorts that could kind of remind one of the big floofy deer butt. Before you say it, I realize in hindsight that the hair kind of looks like Alistair's hair. You don't need to comment about it. If you already have, just know that I got there first because I made this in the past. So you are not original, you are just predictable, and you should be embarrassed. But also, on a serious, like, non-joking note, please don't summon that fandom because they scare me so much. Dude, they scare me so much. I did think of a slight tweak to the stories. I kind of liked the idea that she was still a deer who got orphaned because of some asshole poachers or something, and she was going to starve because she was all alone, but there was some kind of magical nature spirit or something that took so much pity on her that she was able to be reborn into a new life. She woke up in a fully formed human body, magically already part of a loving family. She can't quite remember how she got there, but I thought it would be interesting to see her try to access memories from her short past life and grapple with the feelings of being an imposter among false family. How's that for edgy? I really think she turned out cute. This sort of outfit is a bit out of my comfort zone as I don't draw very many cutesy, neutral, girly types, but I liked how it turned out, and I hope that you do too, Pippin. Forward! I'm running out of different ways to say next already, and I'm only halfway through. Our next character comes to us courtesy of QStarwatcher from when they were 11. This lovely lady is Queen Sofia, and this backstory is a doozy. Sofia here is from a story with the classic Light and Dark Kingdom setup, and Sofia was originally destined to become the ruler of the Light Kingdom, but when the last heir of the Dark Kingdom died, she was sent to rule that kingdom instead. The conditions were much worse, and after being surrounded by dark energy constantly, her bitterness left the door open to her heart, allowing it to be consumed by the darkness, Kingdom Hearts style. Now she has dark magic powers and rules as a tyrannical queen with an iron fist. Q here requested that I try to keep her looking regal while still being able to engage in combat. So I'll show you how I did that while I talk about this character because she genuinely fascinates me and I thought about her a lot. So I keep most of the stuff the same anyways. Just let me tell you about the interpretation of this character that I came up with. Indulge me. This queen seems like a very tragic character that would be such a sick antagonist. I mean, she was guaranteed a life of luxury in her home country, but because of factors completely out of her control, she was sent away to serve a place that she probably spent most of her life fearing or loathing, or at the very least, probably being loathed by. I doubt she was embraced with open arms as the new beloved queen. She was probably mocked, threatened, considered an insurgent from the Light Kingdom trying to extend their control. This poor woman had to overcome so much for a position she never wanted in the first place, a position she was basically abandoned in. At a certain point, I imagine this scorned character just embraced the darkness out of a need for survival. Sure, she was also angry at her family for forsaking her, but she was far from the light that had protected her all her life, yet she needed protection more now than ever. Maybe after she embraced this darkness, though, the people started to respect her more, and slowly she felt accepted by this kingdom. Maybe she began to see how poorly her former family had treated these people who were simply different from them. They sent her here because they thought she would be undeserving of the crown of light, that she was too weak, but they underestimated her, and she was going to prove it to them. In my headcanon, she wages war on them, vowing to take vengeance for the mistreatment they had perpetrated on innocent people. The Light Kingdom, despite their power and prosperity, began to buckle under the weight of devastating losses. They were too arrogant to take the threat seriously, and failed to account that their adversary had intimate knowledge of where they were the weakest to begin with. And while they maintained the story that the Dark Kingdom was evil and the Queen was corrupted, they knew in their hearts that this was what those lies wrought in the first place. And then, maybe the main character is like a brave little knight from the Light Kingdom that sets out on a solo mission to kill her and then realizes the truth and they fall in love and become the cute queen knight lesbian couple, the end. I don't know, that's just me. But hey, Q, feel free to take that. That's on the house. If you write that and make it into something, send it to me, please, genuinely. That would be so cool. Oh, also, Q requested I come up with a new name for this character, so I would like to put forth Desdemona. It's a cool sounding name that definitely fits the kind of tragic villain story I cooked up while drawing her. Queen Desdemona, everybody. Hope you like her, Q. Onwards yet again. This palette swap of Star Butterfly is called Skylar, this time spelt with an A. I don't know how out of the 20 submissions that got randomly pulled from the pool of 818, 2 of them ended up being named Skylar of all things, but hey, what can you do? Anyways, Skylar here comes to us from Swektow when they were 10, and this was actually their first OC. According to them, Skylar here is literally just kind of an emo version of Star from Star Versus with kind of the opposite character arc that Star had. There is no known backstory, and so this is another lovely blank slate, and for this one, I actually did get kind of an idea right away. As with Veng, I wanted to move her away from being a blatant fan OC, but still keeping the spirit of the original vibe of an anti-Star Butterfly. So I thought of this idea where she could be a magical princess of a magical extra-dimensional kingdom, but she has always had a fascination with the human world. She doesn't like the pressure of magic and royalty and would prefer to live a very boring life where she can fade into the background, sort of like Ika from I Don't Want to Be a Magical Girl. Check that pilot out immediately if you haven't, by the way, and support it because I need this to get picked up and made into a series ASAP. I love this concept so much. Anyway, Skylar runs away from home and finds a nice family to take her in with no questions asked, partially due to Skylar hiding her identity as a princess and making up a story of how she escaped a dangerous tyrannical kingdom that wants to sacrifice her to their eldritch gods, which could cause some interesting ongoing conflict as soldiers from her home dimension continuously try to get her back. Maybe there's also a similarly aged kiddo already in the family who can kind of act like Marco for her, since that dynamic is great for character exploration and plot convenience. Only this time they don't kiss because I always found it super gross that they were kind of being socialized as siblings due to the setup and then they made out. Also, Star should have been a lesbian and then the romantic drama could have been them both trying to get with Jackie, but I'm getting off topic again. As you can see, I wanted Skylar's new outfit to be pretty plain with only 1 or 2 hints of magical stuff, specifically a mysterious bag holding some kind of magic casting vessel. I thought maybe cards would be cool since the Mumin royalty had the different card symbols on their cheeks, just suits! They're called suits! When I was writing this script, I could not think of what the different symbols, I knew that there was a word, I knew that had a terminology. It's suits. They had the different suits on their cheeks. God damn it. Anyway, I also gave her unnaturally colored roots. Her natural hair color is pink, but she tries to keep it dyed black to blend in a little better with the humans. I don't know. I think this turned out pretty cute. I think that this is kind of an interesting take on the idea of an anti-Star Butterfly. I hope you agree, Swectow, and I also hope that you don't think that I'm trying to, like, make fun of you. I see you and you're valid, and I did palette swaps for, like, original characters all the time back in the day, so you're all good. On to number 13. This cute little critter is Star, made by Crystyl, and I think it's funny to follow up the character that was just a palette swap of Star Butterfly with a character that's actually named Star. Isn't that I'm so funny. Anyway, according to the provided character description, Star is a young adult NB who lives in a world where hierarchy is dictated by innate magical strength. Star here isn't born with any magic, but as they slowly started to develop it, no one really knew how to classify it. It was kind of in a league of its own, so they were seen as a threat to the natural order. This is apparently to do with how Star essentially created themselves eons ago rather than getting created by the gods like all of the other people in their universe, and ignoring the potential paradox of that is really sick. I decided not to touch the story too much, mostly because I didn't have much of an idea of what I'd even do there to improve upon it, so I just decided I wanted to make the outfit reflect more of a modern fantasy vibe. For some strange reason, I consider asymmetrical garments to read as modern wizardy fashion. I don't really know why, but I do, so I went with a kind of tunic vest thing with one big droopy sleeve. The other arm got the fingerless sleeve glove treatment because I also associate that with high fantasy, and also I think it looks cool. The last outfit change is probably just going with a cute star choker and putting star details on the chunky headphones. Come on, when your character is named something that can get worked into the theme of the character, why not do it? It's fun! I did kind of have this idea where Star went to some kind of magic school or something, like maybe a college for aspiring magicians, because they wanted to overcome the way people looked down on them because of their strange magic by really flourishing at this prestigious magic college or something. And I also just feel like this outfit works well for the modern fantasy college campus thing. I don't know. I just keep throwing out words hoping they make sense. For the color scheme, I kept it pretty similar, except I ended up dropping the red and introducing more purple tones. I felt like I wanted the purple hair to be kind of a focal point of the design, so I feel like limiting the rest of the palette's use of bright, saturated colors kind of just helps it stand out more. I feel like the purple in the original design gets a little overshadowed by the red, but to me, purple is one of the more magical colors, so yeah. That's what I came up with. Star honestly turned out a little more feminine presenting than I normally go for with NB characters. I usually aim for more androgynous designs, even in circumstances where the character is supposed to be more masc or femme leaning, but hey, I'm a pretty feminine non-binary person, so yeah. I think they're super cute, and I hope you do too, Crystyl. Allons-y again! This little goober here is Eli, who is the brainchild of Space Bunny 53. Eli here, according to their brain parent, woke up in a bizarre circus with no memory of their past or how they got there. However, the ringmaster assured her that she's always been there as a performer. So, she performs, though occasionally she gets ominous visions of her past in dreams, indicating a sinister underbelly to the whole operation. I genuinely love this setup. Very creepy psychological horror shit. I'd love to read a comic about this. Space Bunny's only extra request was to try and make Eli look a bit creepier, and with that in mind, plus the creepy mystery circus prompt, my brain immediately retreated to my happy place of thinking about Coraline. I always go there when there's some kind of false facade that lures a young gal into a false sense of security. That plus the Harlequin doll vibe I was already kind of getting from Eli. I wanted to lean into a kind of creepy doll aesthetic for this character. I opted for making them an acrobatic dancer, specifically because I had this idea where I could give them these little ribbon wrist decoration things. I don't even know if wrist decoration, makes any sense, but that's what's in my script, so fucking whatever. There's something Eli uses to kind of spice up the visuals of their dancing, but they also kind of elicit the idea of shackles to me, alluding to them being imprisoned at the circus. Ooh. I decided I wanted Eli to have really wide eyes with no eyebrows, which would give them a sort of frozen doll face that is definitely creepy, at least to me. The wider the stare, the creepier the doll. That's all I'll say on that. I had a lot of fun trying to come up with interesting shapes for the silhouette and adding little details like ruffles and pom-poms and stripes, as you can see. I think I'm trying to make up for the fact that I didn't give myself a character to dress up like this in my own circus story like a fool. For colors, I wanted to go for a very muted and cool toned palette. I associate warmer and more saturated colors with more lively, healthy characters, generally speaking, so I tend to opt for this kind of color palette if I want the character to look a little more eerie or lifeless. I gave them a pop of yellow in the ribbons to contrast the cool tones, though, just because a little contrast is fun. In fact, I actually ended up drawing the creepy little teddy bear there and made it warmer toned overall. I thought it would be kind of ironic that the living, breathing person looks a little more dim and dead than their inanimate companion. It's a nice way to kind of emphasize just how off Eli is, if that makes any sense. And there's Eli done! I honestly didn't have much to say because this was just a fun time for me. This is also one of the earlier ones I did, and I was really able to head empty this one in a good way. The vibes from the prompt were strong enough to carry me through, I guess. So, to Space Bunny, I really do hope that you like what I did. We are moving on once again. This purple little fella is Iris, a non-binary angel character made by Ironically Iconic, which is a really fun name to say. In terms of lore and backstory, I was told that Iris is meant to appear as though they were early 20s, though of course they're an angel, so they're much older than that. They have golden top surgery scars and typically dress more masculine. Finally, they are supposed to be based on Iris, both the flower and the Greek goddess. Now, I have a confession. This character was the only one that I highly considered secretly swapping out with a different character. I mean, no one would have actually known, but I would have, and the guilt would have eaten me alive forever. Let me be clear, it is nothing to do with the character themselves. Like, I like the concept of a rainbow cyclops angel guy. That's cool. However, if there are two things that I am not equipped for, it is angels and rainbows. If you have seen a lot of my art, you will know that rainbows are just not a thing I typically touch at all. And what's more, I have, let's say, a unique approach to angel characters as of late. That being said, this whole thing has been a personal challenge in a lot of ways. I would have never chosen to draw half of the things I did because my style and design preferences are just very different from all of yours, which is awesome and cool, and I was not gonna be a quitter. That being said, I immediately set out to tackle something that I felt like I could actually improve on here. And because the rainbow thing still scared me. I personally wasn't getting angel from the design of this character. I would not have been able to guess that just by looking at them, and while obviously angels don't have to mean the same thing in all types of media, with all types of artists, and I am aggressively side-eyeing a mirror when I say that. But I feel like sometimes it can be fun to play around with traditional depictions of things, especially if it's going to help tell the story of your character a little bit better. So I wanted to give them big ol' feathery wings and a kind of stereotypical flowy tunic sort of thing. I also thought it would be an opportunity to show off the top surgery scars. I put little eyes on the wings eventually too, so that I could lean into the biblically accurate angel thing that I do like, but also it's kind of a stupid phrase because it's still not biblically accurate. I mean, like, it being humanoid at all kind of disqualifies it. But anyway, I also thought of this idea where there would be a strand of hair that would kind of loop around the top of Iris's head to look kind of like a halo? I'm not gonna lie. I thought that this was a really fun idea and that it was really cute and it was a way to lean into the angel thing without just like straight up giving them a halo. The colors, naturally, as I've already referred to, were just a big struggle for me. I wanted to maintain the original inspirations while still making a color scheme work and make them feel a little bit more angelic with softer colors. Like, I was trying to do a lot here. I firstly decided to have a more off-white tone for the skin because I knew I was probably going to have a lot of color going on elsewhere, and I find that it's easier to make rainbow stuff work if you have more of a neutral base to work with, even though the purple skin was neat. I was originally going to go with rainbow iridescent eye thing that ironically told me was, you know, part of the original design, but I just couldn't make that effect work on such a small scale. So I decided to make their wings and hair have a pastel rainbow gradient instead. I know, I'm so bold, but you needn't applaud me. Ha, come on. Okay. Finally, I decided to make all the fabric the same color, opting for a deep purpley blue color, taking inspiration of my personal favorite iris, the black iris, for that one. I thought this dark color would also serve as a really nice contrast to the rest of the very bright, light colors. Plus, it maintained the sort of not-so-angelic vibe of the original design while still looking more angelic. I don't even know if that makes sense. I'm sorry. This design took a lot out of me, but I honestly really like how it turned out. I think that this is one of the cooler designs that I came up with here. It's definitely out of my comfort zone and not something that I normally would have come up with on my own. But I think that that's like the coolest part about this project is I'm getting to experiment with things that I don't normally play around with. But regardless of how I feel, I just hope that you like it, ironically, because this is your goober. On to the next one. We have another gacha character, yes! I hope you know, I'm not kidding, I love this shit. It's life-giving, the aged gacha stuff, mwah, amazing. This lady here is Meghan, made by GRMA. Meghan is a 29-year-old actor who is dating a fellow actor who just also happens to be a vampire. Love that. Meghan usually dresses up, but also isn't afraid to dress down in public, which everyone knows is a sin for a celebrity to do for some reason, so she's kind of brave, and I love that for her. Get it, queen. That's pretty much all I got as a jumping off point, but my brain kind of went running with this idea for some reason. I kind of got this weird concept in my head that there's this, like, Illuminati situation going on in Hollywood where most famous and powerful celebrities are actually part of a secret organization, only the secret organization is basically just a big pack of vampires. I don't know, I thought it was kind of a fun way to spice up this concept, so I opted to give Meghan a sort of academia-style makeover since I associate dark academia stuff with modern vampires. I wasn't necessarily going for dark academia for Meghan specifically, but yeah. I thought that it would be interesting if she kind of girl-bossed her way really far in the industry on her own merit, but then started to feel ostracized, which is when she met her boyfriend, who took a shine to her and decided to extend an invite to join the vampire circle, which she accepts. Ooh. Honestly, I don't know how you could get such a pristine platinum blonde without being a vampire. Am I right, girlies? I've never dyed or bleached my hair even once. I feel like it could make for some complicated moral decisions and drama and stuff, which is always fun. For colors, I wanted red to be a big there because vampires, and once I made the big junky boots red, I realized that I just turned Meghan into a Monster High doll without realizing it. It's mostly the extremely long legs and the big hair, but I literally just made a vampire Monster High girl. So, yeah, GRMA, I really hope that you like Monster High. I like how it turned out, so I hope you do too. We're getting close to the end now, so let's keep trucking. Mysterious Crow is the deliverer of our next character, who just so happens to be part of one of my most favorite genres of original character. Androgynous sorcerers. Always a good time. Anyways, this is Belle. Belle is a witch in a world where all witches are themed. In case you could not tell, Belle is the witch of bells. Pretty cool, right? Crow says that was pretty much the extent of the story they could find for this character, other than Belle being a wanderer and being pretty happy-go-lucky. I love the concept of themed witches, especially when it's around an inanimate object. It just forces you to be really creative. I especially love this concept because the idea of a person just absolutely decked out with bells as they wander around from town to town is so funny. You know that at some point people would start to feel some type of way about that. Like, oh, here comes that loud-ass bell kid, or yay, here comes that loud-ass bell kid. I was also definitely getting bard vibes, and I really like bards. The concept of musical magic has always fascinated me, though I do not like playing magic in D&D. It's just too much math for me. I let myself enter my sorcerer witchy fashion comfort zone with big sleeves and big pant legs and big hats because that's what brings me joy. More loose fabric means more magical, I think. I kind of just wanted to do the original design just with my personal flavor of outfit styling and a higher quantity of bells. I particularly got an idea that they'd have a big staff with a much bigger bell. I think it would work as a little walking stick while also allowing Belle to be even more loud and annoying, which I love for them. I was originally also going to design a giant backpack for them to carry around since they are a wanderer, but this was one of the last ones I actually did and I was running out of time for my personal schedule, so you'll just have to imagine what that would be like. Use your heads. You guys are creative. You can do that for me, right? Oh. Colors, I kept the same pretty much as far as the scheme goes because I'm a sucker for a simple blue-yellow combo. It pretty much always looks great. That being said, I did want there to be less black on the design. That is very out of character for me, as you may well know, but I felt like more saturated and lighter colors overall were better suited for a more cheerful character. Plus, blue-yellow is one of my favorite color combos and I wanted the blue to be in more than just the hair. So, yeah. Pretty simple process this time. I feel a little bad because I talked less, I think, but hey, I just really loved the base. So, Crow, I hope you like what I did. Moving on. Might as well just show off the other remaining witch while I'm at it here. This here is Luna, who comes to us from the mind of Ivy. Luna here is a mushroom witch with galaxy powers. She lives in the woods out of shyness and a love of nature, and there she studies astronomy with her cat, Star, by her side. It's such a cute name for a cat. If you're like a galaxy witch, I love that so much. She is generally kind and has a soft spot for animals, going out of her way to help them when in need. Ivy had requested I give her character some more moon and celestial kinds of elements to the design, and with that prompt, I set off. I love witches that have mushroom theming. I always think it looks cool. However, in the case of Luna, with the phrase mushroom witch, I was a little confused if Ivy meant that this was a mushroom-themed witch, or if this was a witch who was a mushroom. I think I was confused just because she seems to be more lunar galaxy themed, which, not that a witch cannot have two themes, that's perfectly fine. But I personally like to opt for more singular focused designs myself because I just find them easier to get across all the stuff I want. So I went forward with the idea that she was a mushroom person. This led me to making her a lot more cartoony, which I actually really like. I toned that back a lot for the designs overall, so this one made me really happy to do because I just love super cartoony stuff. It's what I do, it's what gives me joy. I opted to make her hat one giant mushroom because it's cute. I was also going to make her big poofy skirt a mushroom, but I decided to just go for mushroom vibes there later on because I didn't want to overdo it. In order to make the design feel a little more space themed, I started by putting this big moon and star charm thing on her mushroom hat because I thought it was cute, and it was a simple way to push that theme. Once I got to colors, I continued to try and push that idea. I came up with having a simplified lunar cycle kind of pattern wrap around her skirt, and then at the very end, I also added in some little glittery star details. I imagined her stuff magically sparkled because that is fun. This turned out a lot more simple than the original design, and at first I felt kind of bad about that, but I think that this kind of illustrates this idea that I kind of do want to talk about more on my channel, to just say less is sometimes more. Sometimes having more details on your design, while it gives your brain and eyeballs more to experience, it doesn't always make for a clearer and more readable design. In fact, it can often be the opposite there. Anyways, this is my proposed new Luna. I think she's turned out super cute, and to Ivy, I hope you like what I did. On to the penultimate character. This character is unique in that they don't actually come with a name, but their creator, ProjectZebra, said I can give them a name, so that's pretty fun. Their story here is that they're a 16-year-old who goes to a boarding school and acts as a class president. They play soccer and they're pretty popular and flirty. Ooh. Zebra also let me know that this character kind of flip-flopped between being a biological male and intersex, hence why there's a more feminine presenting version of the design. I decided to take that idea and run with it for my own redesign. I wanted there to be a sort of standard, popular, rich kid kind of design, but then also give this character a more feminine presenting alter ego. Zebra included an anecdote about how you aren't supposed to be in your classmates' dorms and you're supposed to just stay in your own, and this character had to sneak out after visiting a lady friend, wink wink, so I thought I'd just take this a step further. I figured it could be a case of dorms separated by gender, so maybe this guy, who I have decided to call Avery by the way, got a wig for himself so he could pose as a lady in order to sneak in and out to see his girlfriends and such. However, maybe it would be an interesting story if he felt something unexpected when he was in his disguise and started to use this alter ego and wig to start exploring gender off of the campus of the school. I think it's cool to explore characters as they first start to experiment with presenting in ways that they didn't imagine they could, and I thought it was just kind of a neat idea and a neat spin on that original stuff. For colors, I honestly kept them pretty much the same as the original, though maybe a bit muted. I just thought the dimmer red color looked nice, and it complemented the soft pink I picked for the wig. Again, I feel like I'm not talking too much. I don't know if it's because I'm closer to the end of scriptwriting and I'm trying to kind of rush a conclusion, but regardless, I came up with a name for this character and drew them twice, so if you could cut me some slack, that would be really nice. Jokes aside, I really hope you like my version of Avery, and I hope you like the name, Avery. So here you go, Zebra. On to the final entry! Woo! This fella right here is Peter, made by the lovely Kirby Trilogy, and once again, I love the vintage appeal of this original character and art. Peter here is actually a Pokemon gym leader, specifically a Ghost-type gym leader. The brief background of this character is that he used to be a famous composer, but now he's an alcoholic hermit who spends his days wasting away in his lonely old mansion. Now, I was quite excited to get to play around with this idea because A, I love Pokemon, B, a couple of people seemed interested in seeing how I would tackle a gym leader design, and C, I think ghost types are my favorite just barely above water types. Discovering Hisui and Basculegion was a big day for me, if you were wondering, especially since I started my Pokemon journey with Gen 5. A very big day. Anywho, going into it, I knew I wanted to keep the big, bushy mustache, beard, and eyebrows, and some tattered aspects to his clothes, but I wanted to lean into the old fancy composer thing a little more. And, of course, I was going to have to come up with a color scheme, but that was something I would worry about later. I started out by getting a wide body shape with big ol' arms to match the original inspiration, and tried to come up with a dramatic pose that he'd strike when you challenged him. For his hair, my loose goal was Beethoven, but anime? I also decided to give him a big tattered cape because it's cool, and I think it makes him look kind of like a vampire or something. Aside from that, I wanted his clothes to be kind of on the fancier side, also because I think it made him look kind of like a vampire, but also because that's just kind of my mind palace image of a composer. Obviously, I think the original character was supposed to seem a little bit more run down overall, but in my brain, when we're talking about like a Pokemon gym leader, I just feel like it would make more sense if they were at least a little bit more, you know, put together. Also, I just feel like it would be kind of weird to just beat up a sad old man. I would feel bad destroying him, you know, and taking his money and his badge, putting him to shame. I feel like that would just be kind of fucked up. Once I got to colors, I decided to go for a very dull and almost ghoulish skin tone because I think it helped make him look both sad and kind of ghostly. I gave him a lot of purple tones because ghost type, and then finished up with a slight red gradient on the cape, both to give him a bit more of a visual flair and to break up all that purple a bit. I don't know that I'd say this is good enough to be in Pokemon as an actual Pokemon trainer, but that's not even the point here. What I'm really hoping for is that Kirby thinks that my new idea for Peter here is cool because I think he's pretty neat. And, at long last, that's a wrap. That's all I've got today in terms of art, but that doesn't mean I'm done yapping. If you'll excuse my getting a bit personal and sappy for a bit, I started this thing almost as a celebration for 40k subs, and now, only about 3 months later, we're already almost at 60k. It's actually insane how fast this channel has been growing, and I am so fucking grateful. But it's also kind of overwhelming. Like, I'm proud of my abilities as an artist and a writer and even a speaker, if that doesn't make me sound like a massive blowhard. I know that I have the capacity to be good at what I've been doing here on this channel, but I do not perceive myself to be halfway to a silver play button in less than a year from launch kind of good. That's insane. I am definitely striving to be that good, but if I'm honest with myself, it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of eyes. That being said, this is probably one of the coolest things I've ever done in my entire life. Having so many people trust me with characters, sometimes their first ever characters, that mean a lot to them. It's just so special. Everything about this channel is special. People tune in to engage with the stories I write. They laugh at jokes I make. They draw me fan art. If you asked if I thought this would happen when I posted my first real video at the end of last October, I'd laugh at you. But this is real, and all I can say is thank you. Thank you for showing up, thank you for supporting me, and thank you for sticking around. I just hope I can continue to make it worth your while. Anyways, more thank yous for the thank you portion. Thank you very much to my channel members. They're on screen now. They're the superstars that go out of their way to give my channel that little extra boost of support. So massive thank you to them. Go you! You rock, you're epic. XOXO. Alright, I'll let you go now. Reminder to check out artist links down below. Until next time, make sure you're drinking water, you take some deep breaths from time to time, and most importantly, remember that you matter. Bye. My butt hurts, I've been sitting too long. That's pretty much all I got off. Oh no. That was a horny flub. Uh-oh.